Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Casual Watch Review channel. Over recent years, there has been this renewed focus on creating dive watches that also give back to charity. We've seen it with Christopher Ward's collaboration with the Blue Marine Foundation, Seiko's Save the Ocean models. Oris as also includes ocean plastic elements in their watches, as has Christopher Ward. I'm sure I've missed a few as well. This collaboration with the Marine Conservation Society comes from a brand that we've not seen on the show for a long time. I haven't reviewed a Spinnaker for a long time, but this is the new limited edition, limited to 200 pieces, Green Turtle Haas Automatic. This was very kindly sent in by Spinnaker, so a big thanks to them. It uses their Haas dive watch platform, which is a 300-meter dive watch. And as with a lot of Spinnaker watches, they're named after famous divers, sea explorers, and this Haas version is named after Hans Haas, who was an Austrian biologist, filmmaker, and a diving pioneer. A very worthy tribute watch, but also a very worthy collab with the Marine Conservation Society. There's a lot to like about this watch. For $445, I think it represents quite a good value, but there's also a few things that we need to talk about. One of them might be quite obvious when you're looking at the watch from this angle. So let's flip the camera around, let's do the review, and then you let me know what you think at the end. Before we dive into the review, let's look at those case measurements. We've got a 43mm case, 22mm lug width, and then a lug to lug of 50.3. Surprisingly, it's only 15mm thick, and I say surprisingly because it does wear a little taller on the wrist. Here you can see it on my 7.2-inch wrist, not uncomfortably so, but it does certainly feels a little bit taller than the 15mm that it is in reality. I think this is partly due to the fact that this has an incredible 300 meters of water resistance, which is very impressive at this price point. This watch retails for $445 and is a limited edition of 200 pieces. I was quite lucky to get my hands on this one. I don't believe this one is, no, this one's numbered 0000 on the back, so this is probably a review prototype, that's why. The bezel looks like it's in two pieces, similar to Doxa have a bezel where there's two separate pieces. It's not two separate pieces, this is just printed differently. Maybe it's to mimic those watches that do have two separate sections of the bezel. This one doesn't have that. I love the fact that it has countdown on here. Very smooth, lines up nicely. The QC on this is done very well. There's no plate at all in the bezel. Sword style hands for the hour and then the minute hand. We have applied indices, and then we have a reholt done in this sandy color, I would say. The date window stands out because it's not color coded to the dial. They mentioned on the website this is a roulette style date wheel, but I'm not sure whether they're using that term correctly, because a roulette date wheel, I would say, has red numbers as well as white or black numbers. But this, if we scroll all the way through the calendar here, I can't find any numbers that are in red. Let's go all the way to the end of the month just to make sure it's not just the 31st. But yeah, if you see, I can't see any red numbers on here, which I would have associated with a roulette wheel. Maybe they mean it in a slightly different context. The crown is awesome. Look at the size of that. It's signed there, screw down, very easy to grip, and it looks great in proportion with the case. The case is brushed all over, so giving that very tool watch aesthetic. And then the back case is brushed, and the bracelet is brushed as well, except for these sections. Each link is two separate pieces. The links are push pins, and the buckle on here has that security fold over. The only shame is it does have a diver's extension, but like the Seiko watches, it's one of those weird ones where it comes out about 10 mil, about 7 to 10 mil. Unfortunately, that's pretty useless if you just want to expand it a little bit because your wrist swells up. It is definitely for going over a wetsuit. And that's a shame, really, because I like to have a bracelet that can at least ratchet adjust for when you're wearing it on a warm day. Overall, the bracelet, it's a little bit jangly. It serves a purpose, and I like the milled clasp here, or the partly milled clasp. But it just feels a little bit jangly, but I can't complain really for the price. I think it's on par with the price that this watch goes for. The dial is also very interesting. It has gradient effect from very, very dark green going to a much lighter sandy color. But if we go to this extreme macro here, we can see that the sand color is made up from many different colors of tiny dots to make up the sand color. And what that means is it really glistens in the light. And then in the center, we have special artwork that was made by the Marine Conservation Society, turtle, and then I guess a baby turtle on there as well. And these both are heavily loomed, as well as the bezel has loom on it, and then the indices. The loom shot on this is absolutely spectacular. And the loom is so good on the turtle and the baby turtle that it even glows in the day just when you go from one room to the other. I love the contrast of the pink second hand. I think that really adds to it and breaks up this sandy coloured dial images. The only thing I would say with it though is because we have this faux Tina loom and we also have the sandy colour of the dial and then the sandy colour of the rehold, it doesn't offer a lot of contrast, to be honest. But having said that, and I am very reluctant to say this because I did ding a G-Shock for this, I think this is perhaps more of a watch that you would wear because you want to support the Marine Conservation Society. So perhaps you would buy it for those reasons than having it as a dive watch, because dive watches very specifically need to have high contrasting hands and indices because of the way that light changes as you're diving. A little ding on there, the fact that there isn't a decent enough separation between the hands and the indices and the dial itself. The watch comes in a really cool box because this watch is all about Marine Conservation Society and looking after the oceans and reducing single-use plastic, reducing waste that goes into the oceans. The box itself is completely cardboard. Even the outer wrapping is cardboard and the inside as well is cardboard. And what is interesting as well as the little watch pillow is also rolled up cardboard. The strap is made from nylon, but what I couldn't tell was whether it was made from recycled bottles. I know Christopher Ward has one where they make the nylon from recycled bottles. I thought that that might be the case as well, but I can't see anything obvious where it says that. So a very worthy cause. The watch uses the NH35A, as you would expect. It's a reliable movement. They can't easily be regulated, but it is a very reliable movement. They can be regulated, it's just that they're not that easy to do. But this one has been keeping very good time. They're just workhorse movements, these NH35A, so you're probably going to have no issues with it. And if you do, they can easily be swapped out anyway. And Spinnaker comes with a very generous 2-year international warranty. Overall, I think they've done a pretty good job of this one. The only ding is obviously the contrast here. The included NATO is also pretty cool as well, but I would keep it on this bracelet. I think it suits this bracelet. The bracelet squares it up on the wrist so it doesn't feel like it's hanging off. I think they've done an excellent overall job of this. There's a nice corresponding etching on the back case here as well to match with the dial. So there was our review of the Haas. What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments section down below. If you're new to the channel and you like this type of content, I'd really appreciate if you're subscribed. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time on Casual Watch Reviews.